Welcome to the first Racial Equity Committee meeting of the school year. My name is Dawn Lynch. I'm secretary for those people who don't know. It's nice to see some faces. And I serve as secretary for the Racial Equity Committee. And to my left is our vice chair, Ms. Elisa Andrade. So here is what our plan is for tonight. So we will hear from hopefully our Students of Color Alliance, also known as SOCA. We will maybe hear some board member updates, maybe not. And we'll discuss the new member selection process for the Racial Equity Committee. We'll also identify volunteers to serve on the membership selection committee, vote on our committee bylaws and making changes. We'll talk about the outcomes of the policy committee meeting and any community updates we will review. And we will also talk about locations for our committee meetings and the goals for this school year. We're hoping to accomplish all of that tonight. So the first thing we'll start with is we need to approve our last set of minutes, which was back in July of 2022. I'm a little stuck on the year. So I will take a motion if someone would make the motion to adopt those minutes from July of 2022.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, to adopt the minutes for July 2022. Is there a second? Thank you.
I second.
Thank you. Thank you. We have some wiggle room with having it being hybrid, so I'll try to remember to pause so you all who are home will have a moment to unmute yourself and respond. I'll try to remember that. All right, so all those in favor of adopting July 2022's minutes, say aye. Aye. Or raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Those opposed? Those abstaining? Thank you. It looks like the motion passed. And now the next thing that we would like to do is so we need to approve tonight's minutes for our meeting agenda. So I will also entertain a motion to adopt tonight's agenda for this evening's meeting. So I'll make a motion to adopt tonight's agenda so that we can meet.
Make the motion.
Thank you. We need a second, please.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, and all of those in favor of tonight's agenda, please raise your hand or say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed, say aye. All right, thank you. It looks like the motion is passed. And let's get started with our evening meeting.
So now we're going to go ahead and invite up public comment. And then what we'll do, Ms. Nail, if you can tell me if it's okay for them to come up here so they have the microphone, so those of us joining virtually can hear.
I don't believe we have any public comment. No public comment.
No public comment? Okay.
Thank you.
So we will now go ahead and move to Students of Color Alliance. Unfortunately, our representatives from Students of Color Alliance couldn't be here with us this evening. However, they created a video to introduce SOCA to the schools within our area, especially multicultural clubs at their schools. They held a meeting a couple of weeks ago, and they began to make flyers, began to get their name out on social media. They held a meeting to discuss significant upcoming dates and to start planning events. They additionally attended Stop the Violence rally as a group this past summer, and additionally ran a table at Leonora High School's Back to School Night to start to get the word out about them. And we hope to hear from them again in the upcoming weeks, a quick update. And now we are going to move one particular portion of our meeting up a little bit sooner because I know there are various of us who may have to step out. We wanted to quickly go and move into the recent, here it is, whoopsies, hold on. Goodness. The recent policy committee meeting. Where the policy committee proposed another draft entitled Addressing and Eliminating Racism in Frederick County Public Schools. And I know, Dr. Harris, I know you're here with us as well. And Dr. Harris, did you want to start to kind of lay the foundation for what occurred at the policy committee meeting?
Sure, I'll do that. And thank you again so much for these accommodations. We have another meeting at 7 o'clock, but I wanted to participate in this discussion so that we could gather feedback and so that the board could proceed with having a good draft of the policy, because they do intend to move it straight forward to a future, an upcoming board work session, and that is with the full board. But prior to doing that, the policy committee would like feedback on the draft of this draft policy, just so that these comments and things can be considered in the drafting of a more polished type of process. So during the policy committee, we appreciate all of the work of the Racial Equity Committee for your time and for putting substantial effort into a lot of the content that went into this draft policy. And several of you have been at different policy committee meetings. I know Lisa was there, has been there, Keisha's been there, others have been there, and then we have also had Tia for public comment for the most recent one. But your feedback and input has been really key in the draft of this policy for addressing and eliminating racism in the FCPS. And so Ms. Barrett, board member Liz Barrett, took all of the feedback that she had received from this committee, from the policy committee, from others, and came up with this pretty succinct draft that the policy committee hoped had captured the essence of what we as a Racial Equity Committee, the board, with the policy committee and others were really trying to get after with this policy. And so today, you all have received a draft copy of it once it was posted, and then I know another copy went out in the minutes for this meeting. And so really, I just want us to have conversation. I want to listen, and I'm taking some notes about what thoughts, whether positive comments, whether things that you think need to be polished, or some things that just needs to be changed altogether. Really would like to hear that feedback, because I will take the feedback and work with the Jamie Cannon, our Chief of Legal Services, as well as continue work with the Policy Committee to put all of these things together for our full board. So having said that, I will be quiet and just start listening.
Thank you, Dr. Harris. We appreciate it. So I know that, like Dr. Harris said, that the DRAX policy was posted on Board Docs as well as sent out to our committee prior to this meeting. Would anyone like to share, any things that they were super pleased that they saw it included? I know for us, Tia, I know you're, joining us virtually as well. We did want to publicly thank you for, providing the public comment at the policy committee meeting as well. And within the public comment that Tia shared, we were really pleased that that it really included reporting on data quarterly and that data would be collected pretty regularly throughout within the policy, which we thought was a plus. Did anyone else find any other pluses that we certainly think are good steps toward racial equity?
Katie, sorry, Katie, Elisa, this is Tia. I was looking at Katie's the screen here. So I did want to make an overall comment about the draft as it stands right now and just say that it's come a long way from the first draft that the board presented for for our review. And this version is a lot more comprehensive. I was very pleased to see the addition of so many more sections versus, what I saw in the first draft as being a very kind of vague, it almost seemed like a vague set of discussion points. Whereas this reads more like a policy that you can really get your arms around and understand the direction that we're looking to go in as a school district. I know you haven't asked for this yet, but I will just say there were some really interesting comments that were made at the policy meeting. If we haven't done it already, maybe we have, but I believe it would be valuable to spend some time with the NAACP and understand their perspective on some of the things that they thought could be additive to this version of the policy.
Thank you, Tia. Dr. Harris?
Yeah, that's a good point, Tia. I do have a meeting scheduled with the NAACP to capture some of their thoughts. I took notes during the policy committee meeting, but then I also have a separate meeting set up with them to capture what their feedback is and their thoughts, similar to what we're doing now.
Excellent.
Katie?
Yeah, like Emma was saying, I mean, it has come such a long way, and it's very exciting, to see it in that written form. And I just wanted to comment on the curriculum part. I think it's very thorough. I think it provides us an opportunity to really think about those next steps from a curriculum perspective and make sure that we continue to focus on that and provide those supports. So that was one thing I was very excited to see. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. I know one thing that was also talked about initially when we had looked at this particular policy, we believed it was important to use the term anti-racism. And we strongly feel that words have a lot of power and our words matter. So we also wanted to provide as a possible elevation for the future, maybe to take another look at the possibility of adding back anti-racism into the title, as well as racial equity into the title.
It was interesting to hear the board members' comments and feedback on these two things that you're bringing up, Lisa, and the struggle that they had or have relative to the title of this draft policy. And so I definitely have your comments there. I know some of their struggle is, as they communicated, is that they're really concerned about making sure that the work gets done and not being tied up in conflict about, potentially polarizing names as some may view it in the community. But I do have down here the note that we do want to elevate the term anti-racism and putting racial equity back into the title. So.
Thank you. Tia?
So I really like what Elisa said about, incorporating it at some point, because I have the same concern. I'm more interested in work getting done. And if certain word choice would somehow, be an impediment to it, I'm more interested in the policy getting passed, it being a policy that is effective and enforceable, and that these things are actually that there's accountability associated with it. So my thought process is maybe we could get the work done and we could come back and look at a title, once this is on the books.
Thank you, Tia. Did anyone else here have anything to add?
Lisa, I really think that the few comments that we have really speaks to all of the work that went in, and the fact that this draft really captures a lot of the things that we have talked about and some of the feedback that we've given to the board throughout the process.
Thank you, Dr. Harris. All right, so if no one else has any other comments on the current draft, Dr. Harris, unless there's anything else you think we left out, I think it seems like we're good closing this part of the conversation now.
Yeah. I definitely have all of your comments, and I'll incorporate these in the feedback that I'll provide back. Thank you so much.
Perfect, thank you.
Want to talk about the next steps for that policy? What happens next?
Oh, yes. So next steps, in regarding this policy, Dr. Harris, like he said, is gonna go ahead and take our feedback, back to the policy committee. And then Dr. Harris, then it gets written up and presented, correct?
Yeah, so Jamie Hannon has been tasked by the policy committee with taking all of the feedback and incorporating the feedback into the draft policy. Not only the discussion that was held during that meeting, but this discussion that we're having, the discussion that we'll have with the NAACP, and other feedback that comes in that may be written in or something like that. She will then draft it, make sure that the members of the policy committee are okay with it. But the policy committee was very clear. They don't want this to go back to another policy committee meeting. Let's just talk about it at a work session, and that's what the full board. So I don't have that date yet, but that is the next steps. And as soon as I know of a date, I'm sure you all will find out as well between Sabrina or myself. We'll make sure that you're aware.
Perfect, thank you so much. we'll be on the lookout for that date. All right, so our next item is our new member selection process. Over the last several weeks, a find out first was sent out stating that we were looking for new members for the Racial Equity Committee. A found out first went out, as well as our applications on the board website as well. Our applications were due September 4th. Applicants will be reviewed for the following items: their experiences, inclusive of both personal and professional experiences that would make them a good fit for our particular committee. In addition to the area and neighborhood in which the applicant lives, it's really important for us as a committee to have the widest and most diverse representation across the county as possible sitting on this committee. Because we recognize that depending upon where you live, there might be different issues that may come up within our committee with having to do with racial equity within our neighborhoods. So we really strive to look at where is this applicant located, where within FCPS are they located, and can we do our best we can to get a really great cross-county selection of folks sitting on our committee. The application was in the form of a Google link. And again, we looked at professional, personal experiences, as well as a resume inclusive of all of those experiences. Now it comes up our ask of you all. We are looking for 3 members of our current committee to sit on our new member selection subcommittee. Our 3 volunteers are needed. Your responsibilities would include reviewing applicant submissions, attending our selection committee meeting prepared with your review of all applicant submissions, and then participating in the discussion at the selection committee meeting to ensure that all the needs of the committee are met when we review applicants. So if you are interested in sitting in on and being a member of our new member selection subcommittee, please email myself, Keisha, and Dawn so that we can start getting going on identifying our new members. Yeah, and then I just said that part, so we're good. All right, now next up, our review of bylaw changes. We did work over the summer, and we were able to receive consent via email to change our bylaws. Our new members, the way that we were previously selecting new members, it was in May when that occurred, and we want to make sure that we really wanted to align with the beginning of the school year. It just made sense, being that we also have student members on our committee as well. So we wanted to make sure it kind of ran the school year, because then we had students that were also rotating off of our committee and not left vacancies for too long. That's pretty much it for that one. Hold on. And with regards to community updates, Sabrina, I'm down on the next slide. With regards to quick community updates, don't forget that voting occurs again this November. And we want to make sure we advocate for ensuring that the Racial Equity Committee continues to be a committee that ensures equity by partnering with the Board of Education. With regard to our Racial Equity Committee meetings and goals, the executive subcommittee, we presented in the middle of the summer to the Board of Education, and we gave our annual report. And during that annual report, we listed our goals as ensuring the anti-racism policy would be passed. We wanted to make sure, as a part of our goals, that we continue to support the Students of Color Alliance and helping them to increase memberships across the county and continue to support them in supporting our community. We also want to bring together community groups to work collaboratively and promote racial equity throughout FCPS. And we want to continue to advocate for policy changes and additions to current policies through a racial equity lens. Some quick important dates to note throughout the year. We have a list of our current Racial Equity Committee meetings, which will be important for all of us to mark in our calendars, just so you know when the upcoming meetings are occurring. every single one of them except for tonight is on a Wednesday. We are going back to our originally scheduled Wednesday meetings, and they are always from 6 to 8 p.m. And one final thing that we wanted to discuss really quickly before we finish for this evening is we wanted to discuss our committee location meeting, the locations for our meetings. We're having this one here tonight because this one offers a hybrid opportunity for those within our committee. But then we typically have our meetings at the Board of Education building. So we wanted to talk a little bit right now about some positives of having it here or having it at the Board of Education meeting, Board of Education building, or some things that we might like about having it here and kind of decide what we prefer to do. Go ahead, Dr. Harris.
So certainly having the hybrid option is a good deal because it allows some of us who are not able to be there and present, or we have conflicts to allow us to still participate in some of the meetings. One of the challenges I know that we have with having the meetings like tonight is that the LLC only has one custodian, and that custodian is off in the evenings because that person has to be there throughout the entire day. And I know for tonight's meeting, the youth support specialist had to adjust her calendar to make sure that it was covered, to make sure our technology needs are met. And so if we continue to have that LLC, that's something that we're gonna have to problem solve because they really don't have staff that works in the evenings between these hours. I know that this is a struggle that the board has had relative to committee meetings, and they're continuing to be challenged with it. The option that they are using in other committee meetings is setting up a laptop with a link, and the community or other members really just view that laptop. It is not as seamless or inviting as it is with the setup that we have now, but that's just a struggle that the other committees are having, and that's what they do. So just wanted to provide those perspectives.
Go ahead, Katie. Thank you, Dr. Harris. I love the idea of being able to somehow come on virtually. I think it definitely can help. I know for me personally, it's such a great option. Dr. Harris, do you think it would be possible, like when they use that building, because do they use that for sometimes like the MSDE courses? Like I didn't know if we could pair the meeting on the same day. If there was something running later, that way the custodian might already be there. I don't know, or then I don't know if it would inhibit someone from joining, or if like we could alternate locations or something like that might work. Just a couple ideas.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. I know a lot of our MSD classes take place in schools and other locations. Jim Bing, you might know otherwise, but I'm not even sure about that.
I'm not sure about how many activities they have here. Check into it to see what type of calendar alignment.
If anybody wants, I could also always like reach out to maybe Courtney Kelly, see if they know if there's a certain day that might like work best. I don't know what you guys think.
We can certainly check to find out if there is some alignment that we can try to. I think it really comes down to what's most convenient for the members, because we do want to have as many people here present as much as we can. Because I think the in-person does help us. I think the option is critically important. We could certainly see that it allows additional members to be part of it. So how can we have a hybrid, but also make sure that people are easily able to attend and be part of the meeting? Because that's really our goal, right? So we can do what we can to research to find out how we can align with some of their already scheduled activities. And then maybe even explore, like Dr. Harris said, I know other committee members, they do have a laptop set up in the boardroom where people can log on. And so it's, again, not as great of a setup as here, but it still can provide that. So we can try both and then determine which one that works best for the committee. The option.
I have been MIA a lot of the summer, I think, so I'm sorry about that. But I'm also just curious, it feels to me, and I don't know, I haven't been here, but it feels to me like we're dwindling again. Is that just my perception or is that a true feeling?
I think it's also the first couple of weeks of school. So I think that's the case, and I think also too, because we're ready to take on new members, we have a ton of people that just left.
That's fine.
So
I'm
we're in
wondering
that
if this
middle.
is the right time to make that decision. Like, you know, I feel like we're not, how many are we total right now? How many of us are here to actually make that decision? Something I appreciate.
We do have quorum tonight to make the decision.
Okay.
Yeah, if we had to make the decision this evening, we do have the forum for it, but we could also send out an email to ask people what they.
It might be nice to try it in the Board of Education where we have a laptop set up and people can log on so we can see which one works best, which location is most convenient.
Right.
Try it.
Yeah.
And as of right, and to answer Vanya your question, and as of right now, we have 14 members that are voting members, not counting those appointed by the superintendent that could get part of our vote, our decision.
So my question would be, I don't understand the setup with the computer. Can somebody elaborate on what that is?
For the other board committee meetings. So see how they have a laptop there? They have that kind of like set up at the table, and so people say that they can hear, and then they still are able to raise their hand and participate. So it just happens at a laptop, kind of like around the table rather than on a big screen.
That's for who are coming in hybrid.
Correct.
So there is a hybrid option in social.
Yes, it's just not like this
Probably
big
more
screen.
virtual.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like a laptop. So the laptop sits at the table, just like everybody else, and then people are able to hear. People have said they can hear.
And Jen, we're not able to hook up the Google Meet to the screens in the Board of Education.
Not at this time.
So I think that's the other big thing, Dr. Bell, is that there's no screen hookup.
I didn't think there was.
Yes.
Because I remember before I was asking.
And sound would come through the laptop for people on the hybrid meeting. So we'd have to have like a microphone right next to the laptop to hopefully for everyone to be able to hear.
Right.
Someone would need to monitor that laptop. Sorry, so someone would need to monitor the laptop if we were in the central office building.
Yeah, right now, you know, we use it for other committee meetings. And again, it is not ideal. However, you know, we have a board member that routinely attends a CNI meeting, curriculum and instruction meeting, through that means. And they say that, you know, they could hear well and we hear them well when they come in. But, and we don't have a mic sitting there. But we do just want to make sure we monitor it.
Right. Okay. Thank you. All right, well, with regard to our board member comments, unfortunately, Mr. Mason did have a family emergency, so he wasn't able to make it this evening. However, I'm sure he'll have board member comments the next time. thank you all for joining us tonight. We appreciate you all coming out to Walkersville for this first hybrid meeting of ours. And we will get back to you with regard to a vote as to how we would like to hold our future meetings, as well as don't forget to send us, if you would like to be on the new member selection committee, please send us an email as soon as possible. Thank you all. Have a good evening.